Hello, everybody, and welcome into Senior Living Live. My name is Melissa. We are thrilled that you chose to stop by to be with us for our webinar all about engagement. Talia Montone, you can see her here. She is with us to discuss why engagement is important, especially as we age. And she's going to give you some ideas of ways you can keep your mind, your body active all year round. Now, we do hope that you'll be a part of the conversation. To do that, all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of your screen where it says Q&A. Feel free to type out your questions there in the Q&A box, and I will be happy to read those to Talia at the end of her presentation. And we expect this webinar will last about an hour, but feel free to get those questions in at any time during Talia's presentation. So Talia, we are so fortunate to have you as a part of the Arbor team. Thank you so much for being with us, and the webinar is all yours.
Thank you so much for having me. I am going to share my screen with everyone so that you can see my PowerPoint. So, a little bit about me. My name is Talia Montone, and I am the Engagement Director at Arbor Terrace in Middletown. So that means that I support the independent living, assisted living, and memory care programming throughout the community. I am also a certified pet therapy handler, so I bring in my 2 French bulldogs once a week to visit within the community. And I graduated from Temple University with a Bachelor's of Science in Recreational Therapy and a minor in dance. I am the LGBTQ liaison for our community, and I am also a professional NFL cheerleader. So I like to mention that because I always say that I have my 2 dream jobs, and I love to also combine my passion for dance and movement with my recreational therapy and engagement director responsibilities. So why is engagement important? So engagement is everything. No matter your age or what stage you are in life, we are all engaging every day. Whether it's going to church, taking a walk, getting our nails done, joining a club, reading a book, it's something that we all actually do. I just think sometimes in our younger years, we don't call it engagement or activities. So it's a part of our everyday life. And as you'll see throughout my presentation, I actually included some pictures from events within my community that I have held. So this is a little picture from our Veterans Day. This is one of our art projects that we submit in the fair each year. That's a trip to Jenkinson's Aquarium and one of our exercise groups. So like I said, throughout our presentation, you'll get to see some clips from my community. So here at Arbor, deep connections are very important to us. We build deep personal and trusting connections with residents and family members, and that allows opportunities to create meaningful moments that can enrich the health and spirit of our residents and their families. So that's something that you can do within a community. Like I said, for Arbor, that's really important to us, but it's also something that you can do at home with your loved one. Build those deep connections, get to know their interests. Engagement is really about you and the person. Everybody likes different things. I love to read books, but somebody may not, and they like movies, or they want to do hands-on art projects, or they want to go out on a scenic drive. Engagement is really whatever you like to do and how we can re-engage you into the community. So, some tips for keeping seniors engaged. Here at Arbor, each month I get the opportunity to create a calendar for our residents so that they can have a variety of different activities each day, each week, each month. So the Arbor Company does something called the Engaged Lifestyle, which includes arts and education, deep connections, health and wellness, purposeful living, recreation and leisure, and spiritual journey. So we like to incorporate all of those aspects into our calendar. We don't want to just have recreation and leisure where it's all fun and games all day. We want to have an educational course. We want to make those deep connections like I explained. And we also want to add in your spiritual journey and your religious beliefs, because that might be something before coming into a community you were doing every week, and we still want to have that be a part of you. So before I kind of get into the different aspects, I wanted to mention that small and large programming can be meaningful. So that's why I put a little, take a deep breath. It doesn't always have to be something extravagant or a big event that you're bringing your loved one to or joining in on in a community. It can be those smaller events. It can be a baking club. It can be grabbing the Daily Delight word search every day or sitting out in one of our courtyards that I have pictured here. So yes, sometimes people think engagement or activities and I need to do all this stuff and be a part of everything. And it's great. We'd love for everyone to be a part of everything, but some people need that slower pace and maybe they start to join in on one thing a day. And then maybe it turns to two and they make more friends and they start to join in. So I think, it's nice to take a deep breath, slow down, and really focus on the person. Like I said, maybe your loved one at home loved to bake or loved to cook. Maybe have them help in on cooking dinner. Start slow and then you can rebuild up to creating those bigger moments. So we've been living with COVID for a little bit, and unfortunately, a lot of us had to isolate. So we're all kind of getting back into the swing of things. Like I said, no matter the age. For young people, even in school, now they're starting to attend school again and rejoin sports and clubs. So I think slowly bringing back in those engagement activities is important. So recreation and leisure is our first topic. So that can mean a lot of things. That can be a board game or it can be a big event. Here I have pictured 2 events that we held at Arbor. So we had a casino night. That was a big hit. We had poker and blackjack and slot machines. We got to win prizes. And in the other picture, you'll see our winter gala. So I like to hold kind of a prom or a gala each year. And we actually even get to crown a king and queen and dance and have music and entertainment and great food. But it's so special to see someone maybe in their 80s or 90s kind of relive those teenage years of getting to go to a prom. It brings back a lot of great memories for everyone. So that's kind of, a side of the recreation and leisure side of it. So here's some more pictures. We love to celebrate the holidays. You see, staff dressed up for Halloween, a New Year's celebration, St. Patrick's Day. In the top right corner, you'll see a picture from Valentine's Day. This year, we actually got to have Girl Scouts write Valentine's cards for all of our residents, which was really special. So like I said, as you see our team down there, our team is very important here at Arbor. We like to bring in people that also have all different engagement interests. Maybe they speak a different language or, took awesome art classes or Zumba instructor certified. So we like to use our team here as well as vendors to bring in new exciting programming. Something awesome I got to even do in the last couple months here at Arbor is bring on recreational therapy students with me. So they're learning, right in the moment, the greatest up-to-date engagement and programming and new ideas, and they're getting to come into our community and work with our residents. So it's awesome to allow students to also come in and teach the residents new things. So this is our spiritual journey, which is very important to a lot of our residents. We go out to church weekly. We have church come into the community for all different religious beliefs. We have a rosary club. So there's a lot of different things you can do with a spiritual journey. For some people, it could just be meditation and yoga. But this is very important, I think, to keep in your loved one's life if this is something special to them. So maybe once a week, whether you're in a community or living at home with a loved one, you take them to church. Maybe there is a rosary club or a Bible study at the church that they can join once a week to get out, make new friends. It also creates new social relationships for them, not just the spiritual aspect of it. Then we have purposeful living that we like to include in our calendar, which can be a variety of things. Gardening, getting to tend to plants, keep them going. It could be food shopping, taking a store, that's purposeful living. You need to eat and eat healthy, so going to pick out groceries and maybe making a delicious and nutritious meal each day. In the top right, you'll also see a picture of some of us with presents this year. Arbor does something called What Would You Do with $1 each year, where we get $1 for all of our residents and staff, and then we create a meaningful gift out of it. So this year, our residents decided that they wanted to donate back to the church because we have some lovely men and women that come into our community, and they offer church services every Sunday. So they were like, for what would I do with $1? They wanted to give back to them and show them how much they appreciate them volunteering their time each Sunday to come into our community. Health and wellness. So health and wellness can be exercise. For example, you'll see a picture of our residents doing Zumba on the bottom of the screen. So we have a Zumba instructor come in once a week. We also have a physical therapist come in twice a week to offer classes, and we have yoga instructors come in. So it's really nice to bring in new, fresh faces for exercise classes for our residents. It's one of their favorite things to do, especially Zumba. It's like a dance party. It gets you going, and it has awesome music. But even here, we'll do Wednesday weight exercises. We have a walking club. We actually just started a program called Rides and Strides. So we take a scenic ride out to somewhere, and then we get to walk around, get some fresh air. So we're gonna try to pick a new place each month and get out of the community for a little bit, but also get our exercise. So it's kind of a mix of educational, see somewhere new, and get to exercise. Deep connections is what I spoke about a little bit earlier. This is really important to the Arbor community, and to me as well. I think this is really how you can go about engaging your loved one, knowing what their interests are and creating that deep connection. They want to feel, that you're also a friend to them and you're joining in and having fun as well. So here is 2 pictures of my French bulldogs that I mentioned earlier coming into the community. They bring so much joy to the residents, so many memories, even just a smile or a laugh or a walk around the community. And they love it more than anything. They know when they're here that they're going to get all the love and hugs and kisses. So even for the dogs, it's a great experience. And there's another picture of some of our ladies out at the park. So of course, we love to do things in the community, but it's also nice to get out. Even just, like I said, if it's as simple as a scenic ride or a picnic in the park or a walk to a new destination. But when you're doing those things, you can still have those deep connections. You can ask someone about their life or their journey or what kind of things do they like to do. And then we have arts and education. So as you'll see in the middle here, this is actually one of our residents who runs an Italian circle and conversation each month. So she's been teaching our residents how to speak Italian, which is awesome. So this is something that maybe your loved one is interested in, whether they're in a community or living at home. So many people have so many amazing stories and journeys and things that they've done throughout their life. And why not share that? That's one of my favorite things about being here. I learned so many valuable lessons from our residents. So if they have something that they want to share with the world, let them teach it. We have art teachers here. Like I said, she speaks Italian. On the bottom right corner, we have a man who came in to do a presentation on Brooklyn. And that was really cool because we actually had a lot of residents from Brooklyn or from the New York area. So they kind of got to relive their childhood living there and even learn some new facts that they never knew about Brooklyn. So it's really nice that we can have our residents run programs as well because they have a lot of great knowledge to share with us. So another example of an educational thing is our international culture class, which our engagement coordinator, Marco, runs each month. So we try to pick a different country and we will do an educational presentation on it, show a video or a movie, try to make food from that culture. So really immerse our residents in something new. Try something you've never tried before. Learn something new. It's great. So I love this class. It's a big hit with our residents, and they'll even give us suggestions on somewhere new they'd like to travel to for the day. And this has also been cool while we unfortunately had to isolate. You kind of got a feel for getting to travel and be somewhere else in the world for a little bit. So here at Arbor, we also have our social profiles. So every time we have a new resident come in, we have them fill out a social profile, and it's basically a little bit about them. We get to learn their daily routine, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what's something new they want to try. And then we will sit down with them and review it with them. And this is a great way to learn about them and then make this community feel like their home. So in the top corner, you'll see two pictures of our residents. I did a little group with them about advice for the younger generation. So the one woman said, don't think you know it all. And the other said, watch your money. So to me, those were great responses and nice advice I will be taking. So on the next slide, these are some examples of questions that are on our resident social profile. What is most important to you? What is your favorite type of music? Where did you go to school? What kind of education did you receive? What kind of activities and hobbies do you like to do? Where did you work? What's your religion? Do you actively practice your faith? Because not everybody does. And what are your weekly habits and rituals? So this really, like I said, allows us to make our residents feel like they are at home. Maybe if their weekly habit is walking around their neighborhood, then we join them in on the walking club. We want this to feel like they're home. So if you're thinking about moving your loved one into a community, that community becomes their home. So whatever activities, religious beliefs they have or routines they are a part of, we want to bring that into the community. It is very important to us. And that is why we do these resident social profiles, because you kind of get a feel for what their life was like or what they want their life to be like. We want to improve their quality of life and just keep that going. So this is one of my favorite parts about getting to know our residents. And this is something you can even ask your loved ones at home. Maybe there's something new they want to learn, or maybe there was a habit or a ritual they used to do when they were younger and they want to bring that back. So it's important to ask these questions, and it also creates those deep connections that I said are so important. Okay, so here at Arbor, we also have our resident ambassadors. And these three women here in the photograph actually are a few of my ambassadors. So I added this little quote, and it says, "A friend is one of the nicest things to have and one of the nicest things to be." So these residents that are our ambassadors really do become friends to new residents joining our community. They're the person that'll maybe knock on your door and say, "Hey, I'm going to yoga. Would you like to join? Or we're going to go to church and then brunch this weekend. Would you like to come with us?" Because even for younger people, no matter what age you are, it's always nice to have a friend when you're trying to join in on something. It just makes you feel more comfortable to know somebody included you or somebody wants you there. Everybody wants to feel that and have that friendship. So it's great to have these ambassadors that want to include new residents because they want new friends as well. So our resident ambassadors do that, and they also help out with our resident council and our activity planning meetings. So each month we like to include the residents in these meetings because we want to know what they want to do. What kind of new trips do you want to see? What new things do you want to learn about? Like I said, it really is about you. It is about the resident, it is about the person and trying to engage. You want to make it feel like home, and you want to make sure that they are being heard. So after each resident council meeting, we put out a flyer called "We Hear You." So if there's something new you want to see in the community, we want to tell you how we're going to go about that and how we can add that into your daily routine. So here are some clubs that we have here at Arbor Terrace in Middletown. We have a men's club, a book club, Sit and Stitch, which is a knitting and crocheting club, a rosary club, which is resident run, a gardening club, Scrabble club, bridge club, and a walking club. So there's many different clubs for you to join while you are here. The biggest hit right now has been the book club. We've read American Dirt, we've read The Guest List, which were some big hits. But even for a loved one living at home, you can even join a virtual book club and read at home and then get to chit chat with people online. The gardening club has been great and a part of that purposeful living. It gives you a purpose each day to wake up and water those flowers. And this year we did really good on our herbs, and we actually got to donate them to the kitchen. So we got to grow them, donate them, and then we got to eat delicious food that had our herbs in them. So it's been awesome. And then our knitting and crocheting club has been working on creating an American flag, which is very exciting. We're going to submit it into some competitions. It's 6 feet long, so it's a very big flag, but we're very excited about it. But we're always interested also in creating new clubs. Like I said, our Rosary Club is resident run. So they come up with what they're going to do each week, what time they're going to meet. So it doesn't even always have to be something that you're creating for someone. Maybe it's an interest that they have on their own, and they can start it up. So get involved. So I think it's really important for seniors and for anybody to get involved in the community. So you'll see in the top left here, the residents and I went over to Brookdale Community College's culinary school. So you get to pay and get to try these chefs' food. We got like a 4-course meal. We got to watch them even cook because you get to see it through a clear glass wall. So that was great to get out in the community, meet new students, try new food that maybe you've never tried before. And then on the bottom here, you'll see one of our vendors come in. We love around the holidays to have vendors come in and offer different prizes, different things you could buy for your grandkids or your loved ones throughout the holiday. And then also to the right, you'll see one of our volunteers came in and ran a succulent plotting program. So now we all have these beautiful succulents in our room and we're trying to see whose will flower first. So it's nice to bring people into the community and then also get out into the community. There's many things you can get involved in. Like I said, even the Brookdale Community College, that was such a big hit. You know, it's fun to go out to eat and try new food. But then we also, like I said, got to meet students. So it was awesome. It was more than just, let's go to lunch. We also got to meet new people and get involved in the community. So like I said, we have volunteers come in the top left. You will see actually the dance studio I grew up at came in and did their holiday performance for our residents, which was such a huge hit. We got to see all of their best dances. They got to interact with the residents. In the top right, that's one of our trips. We went to the PNC Arts Center. We've gone over to the aquarium. And on the bottom, you will see our housewarming party. So when we have new residents come at Arbor, we love to make them feel welcome, have a housewarming party. So this year, our theme was s'mores. So we made some s'mores cupcakes. We got to sit around the campfire. We played 2 truths and a lie, but it was some nice icebreakers to build those deep connections also with the residents. So that is it for my presentation. I'm going to hand it back over to Melissa.
And I thought it was an excellent presentation, great visuals there. And I thought it was really nice to see those residents in action, enjoying some of the many engagement opportunities that your particular community provides. But we should say, as you mentioned, this is something that the communication is key, right? And it happens in each and every one of the Arbor communities to find out what does work, what doesn't work. You don't want to spend time preparing for an engagement opportunity if nobody wants to be a part of it. So that engagement is huge. And I think that that's actually going to be a part of the answer to the question we have here from Galen Morrison. And she asks, my mother sometimes complains that the activities at her facility are too remedial. What goes into designing activities since you need to cater to people functioning at all different levels?
Yeah, so here at Arbor, especially in our gardens neighborhood, which is also considered our memory care, we have something called GEM levels, which allows us to classify each resident and their different needs. So for example, somebody may be able to follow along great to a Zumba class. They can pick up and keep going fast, but some people might need that extra guidance or hand-on-hand, touch so that they know what they're supposed to be doing with it. Also, it could be for an art class. Maybe someone can create a very complex wreath, for example, if they're doing wreath making, and somebody might need extra guidance. So we like to do something called parallel programming, where we can really split up those needs, because we don't want anyone to ever feel lost or like they're not able to participate because it may be too quick or too complicated. We would like to always make sure everyone feels included, and we will, work with their abilities.
Yeah, so I think in this particular case, communication with maybe the community to say, you know what, sometimes I just want something that's peaceful and relaxing, like gardening. It doesn't always have to be about teaching or trying to help you learn something. It could just be something that you find enjoyable and relaxing. And you found, that was something that helped you when you were, say, in a career and you came home and you did these things to relax. So how do you respond to that when people come to you and say, you know what, this stuff is good, but we really just want something that is kind of mindless.
Yeah. So like I said, it's very important to get that resident feedback and also the family feedback, because maybe the resident can't advocate for themselves, but the family member knows my mom loves this. And like Melissa said, for example, with gardening, some residents like to get down on the floor and really dig the dirt and put in the soil, like they love it. But then there's some residents that just like to tend to the flowers and they want to take a walk and water them every day. It doesn't always have to be the most complex version of the programming. Even like I said, for our rides and strides, we'll go out into the community and take a scenic ride and go for a walk. But maybe if you're not up for the walk, we can sit on a nice bench and enjoy the fresh air and look at the scenery. So we want to give those different options so that everyone feels comfortable joining in on, programming in the community and also going out into the community.
Yeah, so it's time to find the person who is the Talia of your loved one's community and say, hey, can we switch this up a little bit and have that input? And you certainly are allowed to have that input. So use it and communicate. I hope that answers your question. Guys, just a reminder, this is a really good time to start getting in your questions for Talia. And whether you live in a community or not, and we're going to get to that as sort of the next question. Engagement opportunities are something you could create on your own. We find that it's really important, especially as we age, engagement and staying engaged and being engaged is everything. And so as we have some questions that are coming in now, let's talk about that. Why is engagement so important, especially as we age, to keep that mind active?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great for your mind, body, and your soul to stay engaged. Like I said, at all ages, we're engaging. Even if you're in middle school, you need to stay engaged, join a club, start a sport. Even my residents, they'll remember, when they were parenting their younger children, they always would tell them to get involved. And I'm like, that's the same thing now. You want to keep your brain and your body going. So I like to say it's nice to create a schedule. I like to kind of see my week out. That's why I think the calendars are so great in senior living communities. But even for myself at home, I'll create a calendar. And it can be simple things. Like I said, take a ride to the beach, go for a walk, or it could maybe be, I'm joining this yoga club or book club to get involved and see other people. So it's nice to also build those social relationships because it helps you get involved.
Yeah, so whether you belong to a community and you live there or not, maybe you live in your own home, this is something you can do for yourself as well. And I find too that and don't you find this too, Talia, that for seniors especially, if they want to get involved in a book club, a lot of these things are free. And a lot of these things they can find right within their community.
Mm-hmm, definitely. You can search up, book clubs. And like Melissa said, there's a lot that are free. Or maybe if you're not comfortable going somewhere, you could join them on Zoom. We have so much right here at our fingertips now with this technology. You can even read a book on your tablet. So definitely researching what you have around you, whether you're in a community or not. There's a lot of great options that usually are at no cost.
Yeah, great. Well, we got a lot of questions that are coming in a flurry. So let's get started. We'll start with Melissa's question. How do you get someone who is regularly passive to become active? And that is a big question. So I know you've seen it within your community. How do you help pull somebody out of their shell, Talia?
Yeah, so that's why the social profiles are so important. Because I like to tell loved ones, sometimes they'll be like, oh, why is my mom or dad not being engaged? And I'm like, well, maybe they were never that type of person. Because just because you come into a community doesn't mean that you're going to join every club and go on every trip. You may be someone that likes you a long time. So we use your resident social profiles to try to bring you out of your shell. For example, the pet therapy, if people love animals, that helps a lot. You get to visit with someone, you have that one-on-one time. Maybe that animal will help you come out of the community and take them for a walk, get some fresh air. We've had bunnies come in, we've had small, large dogs, we've had all different types of animals actually bring people out of their shell. So that's something that we really like to do. And we also do one-on-one room visits with people. Not everybody likes big crowds of people, and that is okay. So we can come in and do a crossword puzzle with you, play a game of Jenga, update you on what happened at the book club. So just because you may be someone that, does like to keep to yourself, it doesn't mean that we are not going to give you those engagement opportunities that are comfortable for you.
Yeah, great answer. Melissa, I hope that helps. And if you have any follow-ups, you know where the Q&A box is. Go ahead and follow up if you need to. The next question comes from Brandy. I work as a service coordinator at a low-income senior building. As I am not an activities coordinator, we need to have resident-run activities. Since COVID, many activities have dwindled and most people do not want to be in charge of an activity. So Talia, using your talents, how can this person encourage people to take part and start up activities to get things up and running?
Yes. So, like I said, we're very fortunate here that we have residents with a lot of different interests that are willing to run the clubs, but we have experienced that where someone doesn't want all of that pressure on them. That can feel like a lot of pressure, like I'm running this whole club on my own. So maybe try to partner them up with someone. Maybe 2 or 3 people want to be in charge of deciding the time or what they're going to do that day. I think the buddy system is good if you have some people with similar interests. Because, for example, our Rosary Club, we probably have about 15 residents that are a part of it, but they all work together. It's not just on one resident. They decide the time that works for all of them. So maybe if you get a group of people together that have similar interests, they could decide a time that works or some topics they want to discuss for whatever they're going to be working with.
And don't you find too that sometimes when you're just trying to get something off the ground, and at some point you have a feeling that if you could just get it started, that they'll take over from there. Maybe in the beginning stages, would you recommend something like a $5 gift card for like a Starbucks or something, just to get people to start getting the ball rolling?
Yeah, stuff like that definitely helps people get involved. We like to use prizes or incentives sometimes because people love that. Even we've been doing a monthly raffle for stuff like that for getting involved. So if you come to a bunch of new programs or try something new that month, you can come into our raffle and you can win a ShopRite gift card, a dinner trip, a bottle of wine. So we love to use that because it really helps people come out because maybe they want to come and spend for a prize. So that's definitely a tactic that you could use. Yeah. And you can even start up the program yourself. Maybe the first 2 or 3 meetings, they might need your guidance. And then as they get comfortable with it, you could step aside and let it go on its own.
Yeah. So Brandy, I hope that gives you a few new ideas to implement starting today at your community. Excellent question. The next one comes from Karen. My mom will be the new kid on the block. How can I help her become part of the established group? And we see that quite a bit in senior living communities. Somebody new comes in and they feel like they're back in school or back in college.
Yes. So that's why here at Arbor, our resident ambassadors are so important. But another good tip for that, I think, is sitting with new people in the dining room. I think if at lunch or breakfast or dinner, you can sit with someone and connect with them, that's a great time to chit chat, get to know each other. And, together, those people will discuss maybe, oh, well, I'm going to go to bingo later, or I'm going to go to the art class tomorrow. And it builds that friendship. So maybe if you're coming into a community that doesn't have ambassadors, maybe you can talk to the chef or the dining director and be like, hey, my mom isn't always comfortable coming out of her shell on her own. Is there a nice resident you guys can sit her with for breakfast, lunch, or dinner? I think that's a great tool to kind of have people connect, not just in activities, but, throughout other things during the day.
Yeah. And the mealtime is always huge, right? Because it's the easiest time, it seems, to sort of just kind of sit at a table and get to know people. But the activities can be that time too. So if she doesn't know anybody, but she sees the calendar, maybe start going to as many activities that interest her as possible to get her in front of groups of people who have the same interest.
Yes,
so
definitely.
yeah, excellent. And then I know you see that every single day, Talia, when you see the new kids on the block come on in, and and doesn't staff help on that end as well?
Yes, definitely. That's why getting to know the residents are so important. Because maybe if 2 new residents coming in were both teachers, it could be something as simple as that can connect them. So it's really important to, say hi in the hallway, smile at someone new. Like Melissa said, join as many activities you can. And whether you love some of them or don't like the rest, then you know what you like to go to and who you like to be around. So definitely putting yourself out there, which, like I said, can be scary no matter what age you are coming into a new situation. But I think definitely doing that would help.
Great. Karen, I hope that helps. and you can certainly pass that along. Again, if you have a follow-up, feel free to chime in. This one comes from Maryland. How was engagement managed during the pandemic?
Yes, so there was a lot of safety protocols we had to follow because, of course, keeping our residents and families safe was most important at that time. But engagement never stopped. It just wasn't usually in as large groups. And we would wear masks and take all those correct precautions. So we would maybe try to do things outside, get fresh air, a lot of one-on-one time. We would do room visits. We would drop off new things for clubs that we were doing. We were doing a lot of virtual stuff. So there was definitely still engagement happening. It was just happening, with more precautions because we were trying to be as safe as possible. Like, for example, in the summertime, if we could have an entertainer come out and sing and have everyone spread out in the courtyard, we would do it. We weren't letting any of that stop. Because like I said, engagement is something that's a part of all of us every day. So if we couldn't go out to church, we would offer a virtual service and it would go on everyone's TV in their room. So we were making sure they were still getting all those engagement opportunities just in the safest way possible.
Yeah, and a follow-up to that, also from Maryland, what planning has been done in preparation for another pandemic or isolation event? And I think that's a good question people want to know.
Yeah, so I think now that, unfortunately, we had to go through it once, we're kind of prepared for anything. We have kind of got to see what works and what doesn't. What really works for the residents, we're going to continue with, because if they loved, like I said, virtual services for church, then we will continue that. But maybe some of the residents weren't comfortable with room visits at that time because, it was scary. There was so much unknown the first time that we went through this. But I think we are prepared that if it were to happen again, we know the right precautions to take and we know what worked in the community. And like I said, getting that resident input, whether it's sending out a flyer, what kind of things do you like to do in your room? Do you want to read a new book? Do you want movie suggestions? Whatever it is to keep them safe, but also engaged. We like to get that feedback from them as well.
Yeah, and just to let Marilyn know and others know that so on even just the micro level, like starting the building of a new community, a lot of these designers who are designing these new senior living communities and many right now for the Arbor Company have taken into account what happened during the pandemic, and that is going into the blueprint of these new communities to, again, sort of help out the next time that this happens. Let's cross our fingers that it doesn't, but if it does, these not only are the people in the community prepared, as Talia mentioned, but the buildings themselves will also be prepared for something like that. So pandemic has certainly changed how we look at everything, hasn't it? Beverly's question, what about inviting seniors in the community to the facility to events? What a great idea, Beverly.
Yeah, so we have a great marketing team here that has been working on bringing back those types of events. We also do something called Resident for a Day here at Arbor, which is fantastic. They get to come, eat a meal, joining in on engagement programming, meet the residents, see what an apartment would look like here. So they kind of get a feel of what it would be like to live here and have Arbor as your home. So that is definitely one of my favorite things that we do here. They get to meet the staff, and some people will even come in like 2 or 3 times before they decide to make the move, because it's nice to come in already knowing some friends or knowing a club you really want to join here, or having a table to sit at lunch. Like we said, it is hard to be the new kid on the block. So if you can come in and enjoy the community before even making it your home, that's awesome. But we also have events like we had a tour waffle and roll, and we invited seniors in from the community, and we had a waffle station and entertainment. They got to see different rooms in the community. So it's great to bring in people so that they get a feel of what it's like to be here.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So many of our webinars, we talk about not waiting until it's too late or there's an emergency with a loved one to look into senior living. Start doing that now. So if mom or dad is living at home and they're getting up there in age, just go see what's available within the area that they want to be at for the next several years. And just go check out some of the communities. Arbor, we're happy to have you with welcome arms, opening arms, and just take a peek at what potentially could be down the road. Yeah, I love that idea. And I love that you're doing that right now, Talia. Excellent. Jolie wants to know, what if your parent has social anxiety and is an introvert? And I know we kind of touched on this. So maybe when you answer this, Talia, can you also give us an example of somebody who is maybe a tough nut to crack in terms of being an introvert, but kind of came out of their shell at your community?
Yeah. So, there are a lot of residents, like I said, that maybe do feel that way. If you were someone that was always introverted in life, like I said, just because you come into a community doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to, join everything, but it could. Some people that were introverted, in their older age, like, well, now I'm going to do everything. So it depends on your loved one, but that is why our social profiles and our deep connections are very important. Because if you are catering to their needs and what they like, it could be as simple as, listening to music with that person. And maybe they love listening to music and getting to see you every day. And then you start to bring them out to our weekly entertainments. Well, we have live music here. Why don't you come try it? And maybe they start kind of sitting off to the side, but maybe they connect with someone else that's also a little more introverted. And then they make a new friend, and then they start to come out with that friend. I think building the relationships is the most important, and it may start with a staff member because some residents are nervous to just put themselves out there with their peers, but that staff member is able to then connect them to someone alike, and then they start to be friends. Even if you have one great friend in the community, that could be all that you need. You may not have 50, but that one person maybe is who you wake up with and have breakfast with and take your walk and you go to church with on Sundays. So building connections with people, like I said, even if it starts with a staff member that's trying to break you out of your shell, we know other residents alike and can connect them. So maybe they hang out in their room. Like I said, engagement can be big, awesome programming, but it can also be small, meaningful moments with friends and or staff.
Perfect answer. Yeah, and Marilyn replied, "Thank you. Good to know regarding future facilities." And then she wrote with a laughing emoji, "Mom or Dad, this is all about me." And I'm thinking, Marilyn, look at you with the emojis. I'm sorry, I did not know. You're doing quite well with the social media. So we're glad we hopefully could help you, Marilyn, with this discussion about engagement. I also I want to talk a little bit about technology, Talia, because I've been into numerous Arbor communities, and I always seem to notice some new technology being incorporated into engagement. What's sort of the latest and greatest right now that you guys are using in terms of technology?
Yeah. So some of my favorites are the IN2L and EverSound. So IN2L is called It's Never Too Late, but we like to call it IN2L to abbreviate it for short. And basically, if you were to come into our community, it looks like a giant TV screen, but it is so much more than that. It has exercise programs on it. It has personalized one-on-one engagement activities that you can create for residents. It has church services. It has fun games too, like you could play Family Feud on it. But it's a great program. It has scenery, it has music. There's so many tools within this one TV that you can use one-on-one with a resident because you can create personalized profiles for them, and also programming you can do with everyone. Something that's really popular in our gardens community is a sing-along, and there's actually people that come on the screen with a guitar and sing along with you as if you are with them live. So it's fantastic. And then the EverSound was the other one I mentioned. And those are headphones that help our residents hear. Because if you were to come into Arbor Terrace in Middletown, we have a beautiful room called the Fireside Lounge, and it is a huge room. So if you're hard of hearing and maybe you're sitting a little further back in programming because you don't want to be right up front, it could be hard for you to hear us. So it's these little headphones that actually look very cool. It looks like you're listening to music that allows you to hear the same no matter where you are in the room. So if you were doing trivia and maybe the questions, you can't hear if you're sitting far back, you'd be able to hear it as if I was saying it right in your ear. But the EverSound you can also use for music. So I could be playing a whole concert in the headphones for all the residents to hear. And if you walked by, it might be silent to you. Like you can have private meetings with EverSound, so only you guys can hear it, which is really cool.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. Yeah, and I've noticed a few of those items when I've walked into the communities. Don't quite understand it yet because I haven't used them, but I see the residents using them all the time. So they seem to get enjoyment out of it for sure. Jolie said, thank you for answering the question about social anxiety and working with an introvert. I want to touch a little bit more on those in your memory care unit. So when we talk about sort of cognitive peers, and we hear that a lot when we have our dementia webinars, why is that so important to have activities specifically for someone with who is experiencing cognitive decline? And why is that important to be with the cognitive peers when you start to think of engagement opportunities for those individuals?
Yes, so our memory care community is fantastic. And especially if you're experiencing any of that memory loss, to me, it is the best place to be. And sometimes people are afraid of that. They think memory care and, oh, my loved one's not ready for that. But it doesn't just mean the memory loss. It doesn't just mean that maybe your loved one doesn't recognize you or remember things or is forgetful. It's so much more than that. So it's a smaller and more intimate community. It's very hard to get lost in there. Whereas if you're in an assisted living, it could be a huge building and it could be hard to find programming. But in our memory care, you basically can come out of your apartment and right there is the programming that you can be involved in. So it's hard to miss it. And especially if you're someone that likes to get engaged, it's right there for you. We've even had a lot of residents that lived in our assisted living and weren't really engaging and went into memory care where they belonged and now have totally flourished, come out of their shell, is involved in everything. It's like being a whole new person. And also the programming there is a little different and catered to the needs of those residents. So in memory care, we actually have a lot more programming going on throughout the day. Something may switch up every half hour because, an hour and a half, 2-hour program might be too long. Even for me, sometimes I'm like, that was a long time. You might lose your focus, where an independent living person might enjoy a book club for 2 hours. But just because you are in our memory care neighborhood doesn't mean that we don't commingle. We have a memory care resident that is actually a part of our book club, and she loves it. She reads the book each week, and she comes out and joins in with our assisted living and independent living residents. They come out for entertainment. They go on trips. So just because you're in that community doesn't mean you're isolated from independent living or assisted living residents. It just means that there is that proper care for your needs down there.
Great answer, Talia. Really, really good answer. We've got a couple more minutes here. If you have a question for Talia or a question about engagement for yourself or for a loved one, feel free to type it into the chat box or into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And then finally, before I sort of leave, our Bridges neighborhood or those who need additional cognitive care, isn't it a misconception, Talia, that people believe that, as you mentioned, the woman who left assisted living to go to memory care and thrive, people have a misconception that when that starts to happen and you begin to decline on that end, that you won't flourish, that it's just a downhill trend. But that is not always the case. And I know that engagement is huge in pulling people out so that they are flourishing and surrounded by the proper care.
Yes, like I said, most of the time, if we notice someone maybe seems like they're declining in assisted living or getting lost in our building or isn't coming out for programming, it's usually because they need that extra care. And that's why they end up flourishing in the gardens, which is our memory care, because like I said, it's a smaller, more intimate community. You really get to know the other residents around you, the staff that's around you. Like I said, programming is right there. You have your own private courtyard. So it's fantastic. Really, most of the time, people end up flourishing when they get that extra care that they may need. Because like I said, in our community, we have assisted living and independent living. So some things are resident run or some independent living trips, they don't need a staff member. But maybe someone in assisted living that needs that more care then goes into memory care and has more of that one-on-one time and connection. And that's all they needed to come out of their shell.
Perfect. And Melissa wanted to follow up and say she just wants to thank you, Talia, so much for all your support and Arbor Love at Middletown, which is the community that you work at. She says, my grandma loves you, loves her. I had to support her webinar today. So getting some love certainly for the work that you do, Talia, and we of course all appreciate it. But that's why it's so important to find people like yourself to put you in the right roles so that you can help other people flourish. And that seems to be the word of the day today. And that's really what engagement is all about. So as we start to wind down this webinar, Talia, if somebody has additional questions and maybe they want to reach out to you specifically or to your community, how can they do that?
Yeah, so of course you can call or reach out to Arbor Terrace in Middletown. My email is also on the website. I would love to answer any questions that you may have. And speaking of technology, another really cool thing we have here at Arbor is something called Sagely. And that's how we connect with the families after you would move your loved one into the community. So you get to see every day what your loved one is doing. If they came out for exercise or for a spiritual group or they joined a new club, it's a cool app on your phone. Because sometimes you may call your loved one and be like, how are you? And they might be like, oh, I didn't do anything today. Because you might have talked to them at like 8 p.m. after they had dinner and they were winding down. But maybe they did 7 different things that day. So it's kind of a cool way to check in on your loved ones if they're not fully able to communicate to you what they're doing throughout the day. And it's also a way for us to keep track of what your loved one likes to do, or maybe that they aren't coming out and how we can pull them out. So that's a great app to keep families and loved ones connected that we use in our community.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. It's just one more piece of the technology puzzle that we've been talking about. And it is hard, it's easy to forget because there's so many options on that end. So thank you for mentioning that. And Marilyn here, who has been fantastic with her social media skills, says any representation information for Arbor Terrace Cascade. Yes, I can certainly pass along that number for you. So get your pen and paper, or you're so good with the computer, you can type it out. You can try area code 404-777-4938. And that'll get you directly to Arbor Terrace at Cascade. And you can check out all the reviews of that community as well, just by simply Googling Arbor Terrace Cascade. And they got some pretty good reviews here. So Marilyn, thank you for that. And then Brianna says, really fantastic presentation and information. Thank you so much, Talia. It sounds like your residents have a very attentive and caring engagement director. So on that end, again, thank you very much for everything that you do, Talia. But what do you get out of the position that you have at Arbor? What brings you the most joy?
Yeah, so I absolutely love my job. And I always, even growing up, I knew I wanted to work within the geriatric population. I was always the little girl at the diner that wanted to go sit, with an older couple and hear their stories. Our seniors have so much education and knowledge and life and experience to offer. That's why I said the deep connections are so important to me. Even just getting to sit and connect with someone and hear their story, or new things they want to try. We're constantly learning from each other, the residents and myself. So I love more than anything coming to work every day. I feel like I've gained 100+ grandparents and people to give me great life advice and guide me through my career. But I'm also able to teach them things. Like I love teaching dance classes and exercising and my movement background. And I love bringing my dogs into the community. So it really does feel like a home and a family for myself and for them. Like I said, I have 100+ grandparents now that I also get to learn from. So it's awesome.
It sounds like a perfect fit. You fit perfectly there. Obviously, you fit so well that you have a fan base that tuned in just to see you on the webinar today. That should say it all right there, ladies and gentlemen. So Talia, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your knowledge all about engagement with our viewers.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Anytime, come back anytime. Okay. Thank you so much. And for those of you watching, you will receive an email tomorrow that will have the link to this very webinar. It, of course, makes for easy sharing for your friends and your family, or you can just watch it again if you want to take more notes. Also, a reminder that if you did enjoy this webinar with Talia, you can head on over to our website, www.seniorlivinglive.com. We've got videos covering a wide range of topics, of course, all about senior living. We all thank you so much for being a part of Senior Living Live in this webinar today. Have a great day, everybody.